Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our macOS development with AppKit tutorial series. And in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at the NSLevel Indicator in AppKit. Now this particular view I honestly don't see talked about all that often, but it is extraordinarily useful. Granted, most of AppKit you don't see a bunch of content for, but that's besides the point. So, what is the NSLevel Indicator? Well, NSLevel Indicator is a view that is used to convey to the user, for example, how much storage is being used up on a hard disk, or to convey audio levels, or to convey ratings in a collection view cell or table view cell, or whatever the case might be. For example, if you are building a music store or something like that. For macOS, you might want to use an NSLevel indicator to indicate the rating of a song or a podcast or something like that. So NSLevel Indicator has so many different use cases, and we're going to go through the different styles that you can use, and a use case for them. But I will leave it up to you to let your imagination run wild for what you would want to use this view for. Now, of course, make sure you're following the human interface guidelines, but still let your imagination run wild within those bounds, and there's a lot of room to breathe. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go into Xcode and actually create our NSLevel Indicator object. So inside of Xcode, right below our class definition for our view controller, we'll say var, we'll call it li, equals NSLevelIndicator. And we'll leave the initializer empty. Now, I chose li because it's short for level indicator. Do not name your variables or your objects like this. This is just for demonstration purposes and to make the code simpler to understand, so we can stay to the concept itself rather than focusing on naming. If you're in an actual real world application, name your variables properly, please. Your future self will thank you, and any future developers that work on your code base will thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and go into our configure method now that we have a level indicator object, and start talking about how exactly it is that we can configure this view, because there are many different things that we can do with this. All right. Now, of course, you can see that I've already done some work where we're enabling the ability to have programmatic constraints, and I already have constraints set up, so we don't have to worry about it. We just need to worry about the configuration of our level indicator. So, the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is the minimum, maximum, and double values. So, much like a slider or a progress indicator, the NSLevel Indicator uses a double value for its current value, a min value for its minimum value, and a max value for its maximum value. Now, these can be anything that can be a double, right? Because double value is obviously a double, as the name implies. Max value and the minimum value are also doubles. So let's say you're building a rating application. Let's say you're building a music platform that also supports podcasts, something like Spotify, for example. And you want to display an average rating for a song or a podcast. Well, generally speaking, those are up to 5 stars. So you can use an NSLevel indicator to do that. You would have to set the double value to whatever the average rating is, the minimum value to 0, and the maximum value to 5. Right? So that's kind of how that works. Let's go ahead and set these values. I am going to say that our Li double value, let's say, is equal to, let's say, 1.5. Right, 1.5. All right. So here we have our neat little double value property, which we're setting to 1.5. Then we'll say li.min value. We'll set that equal to 0. And then li.max value is equal to 5. All right. Now we can leave a couple of the other properties empty if you just want to work with, say, a rating indicator. But if you're dealing with the other two styles, then these values are important. Let's go ahead and go over those now. So the level indicator has 3 different states. There is the normal state, there is a warning state, and a critical state. Each of these different states has a specific boundary that you can set. So for example, what do you want the minimum warning value to be? What do you want the minimum critical value to be? What do you want the color for critical to be? What do you want the normal fill color to be? What do you want the warning fill color to be? All that kind of stuff you can configure. Right? So we'll say li dot, let's say, fill color. This is for the normal state where it's not warning or critical. We'll say, for now, this is going to be system green. All right. Then we can say li dot warning fill color. And we'll say we want system yellow for warning. And then we can say li.critical value, or critical fill color. We'll say this is going to be .system red. So in any value that's below critical and warning, it'll be green. Anything that is anything that is from the minimum warning value, which we can set to the minimum critical value, will be yellow, and that's the warning. And then anything after that, anything that's critical, is going to be red. All right, so let's go ahead and set the warning value and the critical value so then we can see this in action. So we can say li dot warning value. Let's say the warning value is set to 3. Or rather, 3.5, let's say. Let's say it's set to 3.5. So it's kind of there, slightly over the center. Just slightly. And then we can say li dot critical value let's say the minimum value for critical is going to be 4. So now, anything that's between 1 and 3.5 exclusive, so 3.5 is not included. If it's from 1 to less than 3.5, then we'll see a green bar. Okay? Then, if the value is 3.5 to less than 4, it'll be yellow. If it's 4 and above, it'll be red. Alright? So let's go ahead then and kind of let this do its thing. We'll run our code now. And here we can see our green bar. Because if we go back to our code, we set our double value to 1.5. So it's below 3.5. But what if we set it to, let's say, 3.75. So now it is in the warning territory here. And when we run our code, we get 75% as our warning. So our value is at 75%. Our bar is yellow. And if you're using assistive technology, it will announce to you in some capacity that this is a warning. Right? This is at a warning level. This comes down to the fact that, like, we don't want to convey meaning by color alone. We need, like, for example, some kind of auditory label with screen readers to let the user know that they're at a warning state. But we cover that kind of stuff a little bit more in my Making Accessible Apps series. So if you want to learn more about accessibility and how to implement it into Apple applications, go over there. But I urge you to finish AppKit first, or UIKit, or SwiftUI, or whatever it is that you're learning. I want you to finish learning how to build apps first. All right. And then let's say we change our double value to 4.75. Now we're well within the critical territory. Let's save this and run our code again. And here we are in our application. Our bar is now red, indicating that it's critical. And it's at 95%, and it's set, and it's announcing that it's critical. Okay? So that is a basic NSLevel indicator. Now, the default is discrete, is a discrete capacity style indicator. But if you want, for example, to replicate audio levels, if you want to do something with audio levels in your application, then the style will be different. Right? So let's kind of change up the values just slightly. Let's say this is at 47%. Right? A value of 47. A min value of 0. And instead of 5 for the max value, we'll say 100. Like that. All right? Now, we're also going to need to change our critical value and our warning value. So let's go ahead and do that. So for warning, instead of 3.5, let's say at 75 maybe. Or maybe even, let's say 80 for the warning value. And then when it starts to get critical, we'll say 90. Instead of 4, it'll be 90. Now, the last thing that we need to do is change its style. So we can do that by saying li.style equals, and then we have a few options here. We have automatic, we have bar, lead dot, where is it? There, we want level indicator style. We'll say equals dot continuous capacity, discrete capacity, and rating. And we also have a relevancy indicator. As mentioned, the default is the discrete capacity. Let's say we want continuous capacity. Well, we can save this and run it. And so here is our level indicator now at 47%, and it's no longer the discrete capacity style, it's now the continuous capacity style, and it looks slightly different. This is what you'll usually find in, for example, music applications when you have volume levels that you're measuring and that kind of stuff. So let's also take a look at the style property just for the heck of it. So we'll say li.style let's see. All right. So we have a few options here. We have automatic, abbreviated, bar, binary, decimal, default, destructive. We have all these sorts of things here. If we go and if we jump to the definition of this, there are a few things here. This is like this is a foundation thing. And generally you're not going to use this property on a level indicator because there's no need to. But I just kind of wanted to show you what this style property was that we accidentally used instead of level indicator style. This is kind of a this is more of a foundation core animation thing that we don't need to worry about. All right. But what if you want to display a rating indicator? Well, we can do that with the rating level indicator style. Before we do that, let's go ahead and go to our minimum, maximum, and double values to change around some stuff. And then we'll also get rid of our warning and critical as well as our fill color values. Because well, maybe not the fill color, and you'll see why. So what we're gonna do, li double value, we'll say 3, min value is gonna be 0, we'll say 5, and then we'll make the fill color and then instead of system green here, we'll say system yellow for the fill color. Dot system yellow. Here we go. And then we'll get rid of some of these here. So get rid of those. Get rid of those. All right, now we'll change the level indicator style. And instead of continuous capacity, we'll have rating. All right, now we'll save this again and we'll run it. We have a build failure. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we did wrong here. Okay. So at this point, if we save this and run our code, we get a successful build. And here's our level indicator. We can see that there's really nothing happening here because we haven't set an image yet for this to use. So how do we do that? Well, there are specific properties for this. So we can say li dot rating image. We'll set this equal to an NS image, and we'll say system symbol name, and we'll say star.fill, and then we'll just leave the accessibility description empty because we're not going to need one in this particular case. All right, there we go. And then we'll say li dot placeholder image. So the placeholder image is going to be the image that is displayed in the parts of the indicator that are not filled because of the double value. So we'll say equals NS image system symbol name, and we'll say star and an empty accessibility description. And of course, again, Xcode is being uncooperative by putting multiple NS image things there when it shouldn't. It did the same thing with NS button. I don't know why it does that, but it does. But that's besides the point. Now that we have these set, let's go ahead and run this here. Now we have a successful build, and our rating indicator is now visible. So we can see the stars here. There's 5 of them. And if we go back to our values here, we have 3 stars that should be filled. And they are. Or at least they should be. And then the rest are empty. Now, of course, if you're using a rating indicator, the size of your indicator might be, you might want to make that different. So the stars aren't quite as spread out or anything like that. But that's how we go about creating a rating indicator using NSLevel Indicator. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys, on NSLevel Indicator. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.